The sun was going down in San Telmo, a busy neighborhood in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Valeria Recuzzo, the wife of famous soccer player Lionel Messi, was helping give food to people with the Messi Foundation. She watched as people came to get meals. Among them was an old woman. Her clothes were old, but she still looked proud. "Would you like some warm mate cocido?" a volunteer asked the old woman. The woman nodded but kept staring at Valeria. "Are you Lionel Messi's wife?" she asked with a voice that sounded like she was from Rosario, the city where Messi was born. Valeria smiled and nodded. She was used to people recognizing her. But what the old woman said next surprised her. "Tell Leo that I still have his school report about Argentine heroes. The one he did when he had to miss school for his hormone treatment. I always knew that kid would be someone special." Valeria's eyes widened. "Were you his teacher?" The woman smiled, remembering the past. "Yes, my name is Clara Benitez. I taught at school number 66 in Rosario. I was the only one who—" She stopped talking suddenly. Her eyes filled with sadness, and before Valeria could ask more, the woman walked away into the crowd. "Wait!" Valeria called out. She tried to follow, but the street was too crowded. She barely saw Clara turning onto another street. With shaking hands, Valeria took out her phone and snapped a picture of the woman from a distance. Then she quickly called Messi. "Leo, you have to hear this. I found someone from your past." Messi's voice became serious. "What happened, love?" "Your teacher Leo. The one who helped you when you were sick and had to stay home. She's here in San Telmo, and she's living on the streets." There was silence on the other end of the call. Then Messi said, "Send me the photo. I'm calling the foundation right now. We need to find her." Valeria looked at the long line of people waiting for food. How many of them had stories like this? She could smell fresh churros being sold nearby, the sweet scent mixing with the cool evening air. That night, back in Messi's house in Rosario, a blurry photo of an old woman became the center of an important conversation. Messi's father, Jorge, was holding a tablet with a black and white photo from 1996. It showed the teachers from school number 66. In the middle, there was a smiling woman holding a sign that said, "Champions of the Interschool Tournament." Messi put down his cup of mate. He had come home to open a new soccer field in his old neighborhood, but now his mind was somewhere else. "Dad, do you remember when Miss Clara used to come to our house with my homework?" Jorge sat next to him. "Of course, kid. She was the only one who understood your treatment. She took a bus across the whole city just to help you." Messi compared the photos. Despite the years, he could still see that the woman in San Telmo was the same Miss Clara from his childhood. "It's her dad. No doubt." His phone rang. It was Valeria again. "Leo, the foundation found something. Miss Clara sold everything she had in 2001 to keep a school open in Cordoba. When it closed, she disappeared." Just then, Jorge pulled out an old cardboard box from the closet. Inside was one of Messi's school notebooks. On the first page there was neat handwriting that said, "Leo, never let anyone tell you that you can't. Your dreams are bigger than any obstacle." Messi's hands shook as he flipped through the pages. The next one had special math exercises, made just for him to do when he traveled to Buenos Aires for treatment. "The Grandoli event can wait," Messi said, standing up. "Call the foundation. We need to find Clara." Jorge looked at his son. "And if she doesn't want to be found?" Messi didn't hesitate. "She never left me when I needed help. Now it's my turn to help her." As they talked, Messi's mother, Celia, was making empanadas in the kitchen. "That woman even came on Sundays, you know? She brought special books, different exercises. She always said Leo was going to be great, not just in soccer." Messi looked at the photo again, then made a call. "Andres, we have a mission in Cordoba." At the Messi Foundation office, Andres, the director, had a big map of Cordoba spread out on the table. "Leo, we found the school," he said, pointing to a spot on the map. "Miss Clara bought it in 2001 using her savings and government help." "What happened?" Messi asked, drinking with his mate. "The 2001 crisis was terrible," Andres explained, showing some old documents. "She kept the school open for 3 years, paying for it herself. When she ran out of money, she tried to get a loan. But banks weren't giving loans to anyone back then," Valeria said over a video call. "Exactly," Andres said. "We found this old newspaper article." He showed a picture of Clara standing in front of the school, surrounded by smiling children. The headline read, "Teacher sells home to keep community school open." Just then, Messi got a message from an old classmate. "Leo, do you remember Miss Clara? I saw her last night at the Milonga El Abrazo. She's staying there, working as a cleaner in exchange for a place to sleep." Andres, cancel everything, Messi said. I'm going to San Telmo. Leo, wait. Valeria said quickly. If you go, it'll be chaos. The media, the crowd, you'll scare her away. Messi knew she was right. He sat down, frustrated. I have an idea, Andres said, pointing at a different place on the map. There's a quiet cafe called Las Violetas. We can arrange a meeting there. And how do we get her to go? Messi asked. Leave that to me, Valeria said, smiling. I have my ways. That night in the Milonga, Miss Clara was cleaning the floor, humming a tango. The owner handed her an envelope. Clara, this came for you. Inside was an invitation to Las Violetas and a note. We'd like to discuss your school in Córdoba. Please come tomorrow at 10. She looked at the note suspiciously. After so many hard years, she didn't trust easily. Are you going? The owner asked. Clara put the note in her apron pocket. Why not? I have nothing to lose. The next morning, Valeria arrived at Las Violetas early. She picked a quiet table near the stained glass windows. At exactly 10 a.m., Clara walked in. Her clothes were clean but worn. Valeria stood up. Mrs. Benitez? Thank you for coming. Clara froze. You're the woman from San Telmo. This was a mistake. Please, just have a coffee with me, Valeria said gently. With butter media lunas. Clara's eyes softened. Leo, he remembers that I like butter media lunas? Valeria smiled. Just like he remembers the special exercises you made for him? Slowly, Clara sat down, holding onto her old bag. I have something to show you. Her hands shook as she pulled out a small envelope. Out on the streets, I lost everything, she whispered. But I still have this. Clara was an old teacher who once taught a little boy named Leo Messi. Many years later, Leo became the best football player in the world, but he never forgot her. One day, the Messi Foundation decided to fix an old school in Córdoba, and Clara was going to be the director. Clara's hands shook as she opened an envelope. Inside, she found pictures of her old school and a plan to fix it. Her eyes filled with tears. Why? She whispered. Because Leo never forgot the teacher who believed in him when others didn't, Valeria, Leo's wife, said softly. At that moment, Valeria's phone buzzed. It was a message from Leo. How is she? Before Valeria could reply, Clara suddenly felt weak. She wobbled in her chair, and her coffee spilled all over the papers. Help! Valeria cried, rushing to hold Clara up. Later at the hospital, the doctor explained, she has low blood pressure and hasn't been eating well. She needs rest and good food. Leo arrived quietly, using a back entrance so no one would notice him. He looked through the glass window at his old teacher, who was now asleep with an IV in her arm. Are you ready? Valeria asked, squeezing his hand. Leo nodded and walked into the room. He sat beside her, waiting. After a few minutes, Clara opened her eyes. Leo, she whispered weakly. It's me, Sino, Leo said, his voice shaking. Clara tried to sit up, but Leo gently stopped her. Take it easy, don't get up, he said softly. She smiled. Look at you. The best player in the world. I always knew you would be. You remember? I remember everything. Leo pulled an old yellowed notebook from his bag. Especially this. Clara took the notebook. Her eyes filled with tears as she recognized it. Your math exercises. You used to do them on the bus on your way to my house. Leo leaned closer. Why didn't you tell me when you needed help? Clara sighed. Leo, your face is everywhere, on TV, in newspapers. I felt proud, but also, I didn't want to bother you. Leo shook his head. You would never be a bother. You helped me become who I am. No, Leo. You were always special. You believed in me, Leo interrupted. When other teachers said football was a waste of time, you let me do my schoolwork differently so I could keep playing. A nurse walked in with a tray. Lunch, Mrs. Benitez. No, Leo stood up. Andres, bring food from Don Julio. Minutes later, the delicious smell of grilled chorizo and chimichurri filled the air. Just like old times, Sino, Leo grinned. Clara laughed. You always used to bring me sandwiches after training. As they ate, they remembered old times. Leo recalled little details Clara had forgotten, and Clara told stories Leo never knew. Wait, you told my mom to let me skip a test? Of course. There was an important football match. I told Celia, your son will learn history all his life, but this game is one of a kind. As the sun began to set, Leo finally said why he was really there. Sino, I want to rebuild your school in Córdoba. Clara set her fork down. Leo, no. Please listen. This isn't charity. It's a project for the foundation. We need a director who truly understands kids. Think about the students in Cordoba, the ones who didn't have shoes. There are more kids like them. Kids like me. Clara gazed out the window. The river sparkled under the golden sunset. On one condition, she said at last. Anything. I choose the teachers. And no luxuries. The school should be simple but good. However you want, Sino. Leo smiled and took out his phone. Andres, start the paperwork. Sino, Clara is back. The Messi Foundation's meeting room in Buenos Aires was bright and modern. Clara, now feeling better and wearing new clothes Valeria had bought her, looked at the blueprints spread across the table. This is my school, she whispered, running her fingers over the paper. It looks bigger. Andres, the executive director, nodded. We want to expand it for 300 students while keeping your teaching style. My style? Clara raised an eyebrow. It was simple, you treated every child as special. Like you treated Leo. That's why we need you, Leo's voice said from a video call. He was in Rosario working on another project. You know how to reach kids that others forget. Clara pulled out an old notebook. Look at this. She opened it, showing pages full of notes. Each page is about a student from my old school in Cordoba. Their dreams, their struggles. Valeria looked at the notebook, moved. Like how you made special exercises for Leo. Exactly, Clara said. One boy wanted to be a mechanic but couldn't read, so I taught him math using car parts. One girl wanted to be a doctor, so we studied with a toy medical kit. That's what we want to do, Andre said, showing more plans. Classrooms that adapt to students, not the other way around. But Clara hesitated. The cost. Already paid for, Leo interrupted. The foundation will handle everything. I don't want anything fancy, Clara said firmly. Kids need good teachers, not marble floors and expensive computers. That's why you get to decide, Valeria laughed. Make it the school your students need. Clara looked out the window. Do you know why my school in Cordoba closed? The room was silent. It wasn't just because of money. It was my pride. I tried to do everything alone. I didn't ask for help when I should have. Sino? No, let me finish. I learned the hardest lesson. Sometimes we need help to help others. Andre slid a contract across the table. So, will you help us? Clara picked up the pen but paused. 3 conditions. Whatever you want, Leo said. First, I choose the teachers. Done. Second, the program adapts to each student, not the other way around. Of course. And the third? Valeria asked. For the first time that day, Clara smiled. I want my old typewriter. The one I used for Leo's exercises. It must be in some storage room in Cordoba. We'll find it, Andres promised. Just as Clara signed the contract, a street vendor called outside. Hot empanadas from Cordoba. It's a sign. Valeria laughed. We must celebrate with empanadas. Get me humida, Leo's voice said through the call. Cordobas are the best. Clara chuckled, remembering school lunches in Rosario. You never change, Leo. Always thinking about food. But soon trouble arrived. How can there be no records? Andres asked angrily at the Department of Education in Cordoba. The school was open for 3 years. The official checked her computer. According to our system, that land has been abandoned since 2005. Clara stirred her coffee while Valeria made calls. The news had arrived that morning. The school's documents had disappeared. This is a mess, Clara murmured. She had feared something like this might happen. Then she remembered. The box. What box? Valeria asked. I hid all the papers in a metal box in the attic before the school closed. But Andres frowned. The building is set to be demolished. Tomorrow morning. Silence. Valeria was the first to speak. Then we go tonight. That evening, 3 cars pulled up in front of the old school. The sun was setting, turning the sky orange. You have 15 minutes, the police officer said. Only to get documents. They didn't waste a second. Clara was the first to enter. Everything was covered in dust, but every place in the house held a special memory. She climbed up to the attic, with Andres and Valeria following behind her. The floorboards are loose here, she said. Help me lift them. Together, they pulled up the wooden boards and found an old metal box. It was rusty but still strong. When they opened it, they saw an important paper and something else. An album, Clara whispered as she turned the pages. My students. Valeria took a picture. The album had photos of children in white school uniforms, smiling happily. Do you know where they are now? Valeria asked. Some of them, Clara said, wiping a tear from her eye. Camila is a nurse. Diego finished school. Tomas. Before she could finish, they heard voices coming closer. Time to go, the officer said. They walked out just as people from a real estate company arrived. A man in a suit looked at the box suspiciously. Those papers belong to me, Clara said. And so does this school. Now I have proof. Later, in the car, Valeria called Leo. We found the papers, she said. But we found something else too. She looked at Clara, who held the album close to her heart. I think we just found the first students for the new school. How? Leo asked. The children of her old students are asking when classes will start. Clara smiled, looking out the window at the streets of her beloved city, Córdoba. The old school building faded in the distance, but this time, it didn't make her sad. Soon, children would be laughing and learning there again. You know what, Leo? She said into the phone. We need more white uniforms. Dust rose as workers began fixing the school. Clara wore a white hard hat and watched everything carefully. This wall stays, she told the architect. But Mrs. Benitez, the design. The design must respect history, Clara said firmly. Just like I changed lessons to fit each student. Just then a truck stopped near the school. A man stepped out, also wearing a hard hat. Surprise, ma'am, he said. Leo? But I thought you. Some things must be seen in person, Lionel Messi said, smiling. Show me how it's going. They walked around the school, checking the progress. Suddenly, a worker called out. We found something behind the ceiling. They brought down an old shoebox. Clara gasped. The time capsule. We made this on the last day of school. With shaking hands, she opened it. Inside were letters, photos, and little treasures from her students of 2004. Leo picked up a letter and read aloud, Dear school, when I grow up, I want to be a teacher like Miss Clara because she taught us that dreams have no limits. Signed, Camila. Clara smiled. Camila is a nurse now, helping sick children in the hospital. She's going to be so surprised. Leo took out his phone. Andres, arrange a meeting with the old students. Bring everyone. Clara looked at him in shock. What meeting? A teacher who keeps her students work for 20 years deserves a reunion, don't you think? The work continued all day. They found more memories, old notebooks, drawings, even a deflated soccer ball. This was Diego's ball, Clara said. He used to play every day at recess, dreaming of becoming a soccer player. What does he do now? Leo asked. He's a sports teacher. He helps children with disabilities play sports. At sunset, the workers went home. Clara and Leo sat in the courtyard, sharing a warm drink. Do you know why I became a teacher? A voice said. Diego stood at the entrance. Behind him were Camila and many other former students. Because of you, ma'am. One by one they stepped forward. Each one had a story, a thank you, a memory. When the school closed, we promised to come back, Camila said. And here we are. Not just that, Diego added, smiling. Our children will be your new students. Tears filled Clara's eyes. Leo watched quietly. It was worth it, wasn't it? He asked softly. Every minute, she said, watching her former students excitedly discuss plans for the new school. The sun set over Córdoba as they gathered for a photo. For the new time capsule, Leo suggested. This time, Clara embraced her students. It won't be the last. The next morning, the front of the Clara Benitez Educational Institute shone in the golden sunlight. The fresh paint glowed above the entrance. Inside, Clara checked every little detail for the big opening. Uniforms on every desk. Backpacks with supplies. New books. Valeria walked in carrying a box. We found this in Rosario. Clara opened it and gasped. My old typewriter. The one I used to make exercises for Leo. Andres worked hard to find it, Valeria said, smiling. Outside, people started arriving. Camila came with her daughter. Diego brought 3 of his students. The whole neighborhood showed up. Neighbors brought food, pastries, warm tea, and even a homemade cake with the school's emblem. Suddenly, the crowd became excited. A familiar face walked in through the side door. Lionel Messi. No cameras, no reporters, just him and his family. I wouldn't miss this for anything, he said, hugging Clara. Ready for your speech? He asked. Speech. Clara panicked. I didn't prepare one. Even better, Leo grinned. Just speak from the heart. In front of the school, 300 children in white uniforms waited. Clara took the microphone. Her hands shook a little. 20 years ago, I locked these doors. She took a deep breath and smiled. I thought it was the end. But I was wrong. It was just a new beginning. Her voice grew stronger. At this school, We teach that dreams have no limits, that every child is special, and that sometimes the smallest one, she looked at Leo and smiled, becomes the greatest. Camila lifted her daughter so she could see better. The little girl waved at Clara. And you, Leo? Clara said. Thank you for proving that my teaching ideas weren't crazy. That changing lessons to fit each student actually works. Leo stood up. Like when you taught me fractions using a soccer field? The crowd laughed and clapped as Clara cut the ribbon. The children cheered, ready to enter. Wait, Leo called. Something's missing. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. My foundation wants to build more schools like this, with you leading the project. Clara held the envelope but didn't open it. She looked at the children, excited to start their first day. Can we go in now, ma'am? Camila's daughter asked. Of course, sweetheart. Clara put the envelope away. Important decisions could wait. Children always came first. As they ran into their classrooms, Leo asked, So, is that a yes? That's a kid's first, she said with a smile. 6 months later, the school was full of life. Children played, read, and learned under the new trees. See Nicholas? Clara pointed to a boy teaching math to his friends. Leo watched him closely. He's just like me and Rosario, helping others between games. Is he struggling with math too? Clara asked. Nope, Leo said. He loves music. I teach him math using rhythms and songs. Clara opened a fresh notebook just like the one she used 20 years ago. Every child has their own page, their own dreams, their own journey. They walked into a classroom where Camila, who was now a nurse, was teaching people how to help someone who was hurt. Her daughter sat in the front row, writing everything down just like her mother used to do when she was in school. Have you thought about the job offer? Leo asked as they walked down the school hallway. Clara stopped in front of a big wall. On the wall, there were old marks showing how tall students had been in the past. You know what I've learned these last months? I never stopped being a teacher in this neighborhood. And that's a good thing, she said. She touched one of the marks on the wall. Here is Diego's mark when he was 1.20 meters tall, and now his son is 10 centimeters taller. Leo listened quietly. I will take the job, Clara finally said, but only if the new schools are like this one. Small and personal. A place where every teacher really knows every student. Like you knew me, Leo said. Exactly. No big schools where kids feel lost. I want schools where children can dream big. Just then a student ran up to them. Teacher, I figured out the answer to the physics problem by thinking about soccer. See, Clara smiled at Leo. Everyone finds their own way to learn. As the sun started to set, they walked toward the teacher's lounge. On Clara's desk was a framed photo, her and Leo when he was a boy at their old school in Rosario, next to an old typewriter. I remember that day, Leo said. I got a 4 in math and you told me, numbers are like a soccer ball, Leo. You just have to find the right angle. A group of kids ran past them wearing white school uniforms. Among them, Camila's daughter held a toy stethoscope, pretending to be a doctor. 5 more schools then? Leo asked. 5 schools, Clara nodded. 1 in each province where kids need a place to dream. And this school? This school will always be my home. The place where everything ends and everything begins. Outside, the sun made long shadows on the ground. Clara and Leo sat down to share one last cup of mate before he left. Teacher. Leo hesitated before getting into his car. Did you ever regret being a teacher? Clara looked at her school, the classrooms, the students, the old typewriter that now helped new children write their own stories. Regret it? She smiled. Leo, do you ever regret playing soccer? Leo laughed. Never. As his car disappeared down the road, Clara stood at the entrance of the school, just like she had 20 years ago in Rosario. Tomorrow will be another school day. More kids to teach. More dreams to build. More little Messis who didn't yet know how far they could go. Teacher? A student peeked out of a classroom. Can you help me with my homework tomorrow? Of course, sweetheart. Tomorrow, and every day you need me. Because that's how life was at the Clara Benitez Institute. A place where every day was a new chance to learn. A place where every child was special. A place where dreams, just like a young Leo Messi once learned, had no limits. If you enjoyed this story, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more exciting stories filled with adventure, mystery, and unforgettable moments. Your support means the world. It keeps these stories coming and the creativity flowing. Thanks for watching, and I can't wait to see you in the next video.